That's amazing. That's amazing. We have your own. You've been wanting to have a Y Combinator. You should probably explore space in India. So coming from there, I'll come to startups, etc. So how many of you feel that challenging is really bad? Is it a bad phase, challenging economy, or has it been an impetus, a good thing for you? It's a good thing, right? So, monetizing India, challenging economy. I'll talk a little about India developed versus developing countries. So essentially what happens is that in a developing country like India, it's extremely difficult to talk humanities, to talk ideas which are not related to core finance. So there are a lot of social sector people who are working towards it. But something like literature, history, psychology, philosophy, if a person wants to become an entrepreneur in this space, it's very difficult. I'll give you an example. This directly relates to the poverty line and the kind of education, the figures that we have. They're very dismal in India. We all are aware of the figures. Even, the most literate people, even the literate ones are not employable, the IT industry otherwise. So I always take this example. If there's a family of beggars on the street in India, the person, the head of the family of beggars will not tell the child to go learn Shakespeare or study history and know the nuances of history. They will probably ask them to learn finance and earn money. So in India, that impetus about learning finance, learning technology is very huge. And this is where most of our people aspire, our youngsters aspire to be. So I'll tell you a little about what happens in India, a typical Indian household. So the father, as soon as it's almost a cliche now, lots of movies have been made on this, lots of jokes have been cracked. So the moment the child is born, the child is destined to either become an engineer or a finance professional, or a lawyer or something that earns you big money. Nobody.
Not a doctor.
Or a doctor, of course. I'm sorry. Yes, medical. So these 4, 5, yeah, and you're destined to become that. I don't know how much of that happens.
Cricketer?
Sorry.
A cricketer?
Yes.
No, absolutely not.
Absolutely not.
You'd be actually surprised.
You'll be ostracized. The moment you say you want to go in sports, absolutely, it's blasphemous. You cannot bring it up.
In New Zealand, children are born with cricket balls or rugby
Oh,
balls.
so they play.
It's very
but
curious.
that did not become their profession.
Absolutely, it's very curious that these people everywhere, they'll play gullies, we call it. So they'll play cricket in all the streets. They'll be all around playing football, playing cricket, but then nobody will try to push that talent at all. I mean, India isn't there anywhere in the world, football, or we're there on the cricket rankings, but how competitive is that? It's 11 people out of 1 million people wanting to go there. And the infrastructure again is a problem. It's not just the government, it's also people. So micro and macro. The families don't push it. They will push it till an age, till the child is in class 6, 7, 8, 9. So they'll push, the child should be, very, very well rounded, let's just say, should play sports, should go for swimming, basketball, whatever. And the moment you have your boards coming in class 12th and your 10th, it's all gone for a toss. So that's one thing very curious about the education sector in India, that how people want essentially just money is the only impetus, and they do not see money in something like, let's just say, advertising or digital marketing, journalism. Journalism is another very interesting thing. So the moment the child says in India that he or she wants to become a journalist, and let's just say the child is in class, is a 16-year-old child and wants to do journalism honors. So the first thought that comes in a father's or a mother's head is that the child is going to be exposed to a lot of crime, and he or she would be murdered because they'll have to go to Chhattisgarh and Maoist and Naxalite hit areas, etc., all the red corridors. So that is and what is journalism? If I have to ask you really, this kind of investigative journalism is not even a percentage of what journalism actually is. Journalism is actually you're sitting in an office, you're churning out 300 pieces of news, from whatever government sectors or whatever. You're writing pieces or you're talking in front of news channels. It's not harmful, it's not dangerous. But the notion that parents carry in India is that the moment my child becomes a journalist, he or she is going to be lynched. thrown, cut off the streets. So, as far as education is concerned, I'm trying to tell you the biases that are there in India. And they haven't changed a lot, even in the last 20, 30 years. It's very surprising. And, okay, so I want to talk now a little about the ideas. So, how to monetize ideas. One scroll down your Facebook timeline or your Twitter timeline, you see a lot of content. What do I mean by content? You see upworthy videos, you see a lot of blogs, for example, and you've been seeing, even before Facebook, awkward days, wherever, you've been seeing blogs, right? And you're not paying for all of that. So the notion is that if it's on the internet, it's free. And you've been reading all of that. Have you ever imagined how those guys are making money? You'll be surprised, the people who write all those blogs and make all those videos, it's very expensive, the camera work, post-production, all of that, it's very expensive to get people to write all of those articles and blogs for your knowledge. But how are they doing it? How do you think they're earning? Any idea? Advertising is one, of course. So the biggest, this thing is advertising. And now when you tell parents about the revenue of all these companies which are earning just by creating content, you have an idea, you write about it, and if the idea is really good, it will catch on, and you're sitting here by affiliate marketing, you're earning so much money. So, all of these things have to be brought out, and these are the ideas, and topics like these, how to monetize ideas, should be talked about more, because any idea that you have in your head, you can start go to the internet and start writing about it, and you'll be earning a lot of money. In education, I want to talk more about this. You have MOOCs. You all understand MOOCs? MOOCs are massive online open courses. Have you heard of Coursera? Coursera, Udemy. So in education, what's now happening is, as far as trend spotting is concerned, education is moving towards being free. You have everything on YouTube today. Anything that you want to learn. You want to learn how Michael did all of this. Of course, he has a lot of talent. He's done practically almost the best organizations. He's got that talent, but to get the basics of everything, it's very easy to get on YouTube. Or anything that you want to learn today, how to monetize, whatever I'm speaking today, you will probably get in one or the other YouTube videos, some TED Talk, something or the other. So education, by its very nature, be it school education, be it college education, is going free. So then it becomes very difficult for me. If I have to categorize challenging, this would be challenging. Now, if I have some idea, if I have to teach to class 6, 7, 8 students, something, it's already there on YouTube. So this is a very, very big problem, at least in the edutech sector. So there are many edutech entrepreneurs. I don't know if you've heard of EduComp and all those, Blackboard that you have in the US, Chalk you have. So they have made a lot of digital content, but they're selling it, let's just say, at $100 per child per month. It's expensive. And people don't want to pay for it anymore because it's all free. So how do you do it? So now you put out everything for free. I have this mantra that the more you give to the internet, the more you'll get in turn. So just keep on giving to the internet, and this challenging part, the monetizing part, will be taken care of in most of the sectors. Even for entertainment, I'm not sure what area are you catering to, but if you're making videos, you're making interesting stuff, you put it on the internet, there will be advertisers, you will get footfall, you will get a lot of associates who would want to come and advertise. So you can generate leads for them. It's all big data, right? So you guys have heard of big data, artificial intelligence. So now it's all data selling. When was the last time you heard Google saying that we are an advertising company? Never, right? And what is Google? It's an advertising company, it's not a search engine. So when people ask me, what do? I'm an entrepreneur. I'm an edtech entrepreneur, but I'm actually not. I'm actually a digital marketing advertising company. I make content for free and I put it up. And then I charge the corporates, I charge the people, the training institutes, I charge the colleges to come and advertise themselves on my forum, and I sell them leads. So I know if I've made something on, I can make a video, let's just say, on data analytics or fintech. I want to tell the children what fintech is all about, what are the colleges that they can go to, free information, and then I charge the corporates. So education by its very nature is becoming this. And I think a lot of sectors going forward will eventually become free. So you have to be best friends almost with the internet. So this is what at least the startups are mostly going to be. You have to be very good friends with the internet and then monetize. This was one aspect. About the challenging part in India, of course there are cons as well. Like we established that challenging is not all bad, but in India what happens is there are 4 to 5 points that I quickly want to discuss. One thing is government policies. So in India, of course, we know the ease of doing business and all of that. It's very low. Its ranking is 138 out of 181 countries in the world. Ease of doing business. What do I mean by ease of doing business? Right from incorporating the company to filing documents to a lot of income tax and a lot of small things, lawyer related, CA related. So that is still very difficult in India. So there's a lot of bribery, and you have to feed the officials, government officials, etc. And how much does that happen outside? Do you have to pay people to get work done? Nothing, right? So that part in India hasn't gone. Commission and all is separate, but at least government policies is a big hindrance when it comes to doing business, at least in India. Second one would be, I think, for bigger projects. I'm not talking about startups. For bigger projects, let's just say infrastructure projects, or if I have to take a loan to build an office today, let's just say Facebook gives me an assignment to do an office in India, and I need a loan for it. I have the intellect, I have the human capital, I have all the things in place, but the banks probably will not agree to it because of the NPA. Have you heard of NPA? NPA is a very, very big problem in India. It's called non-performing assets. So basically, a lot of big companies take loans and they default on it. So then they become non-performing. It's a very huge problem in India. And why did that problem come in the first place? Again, because of bureaucracy. So I have my connections in place. I know some people, so I can get loan even though I don't deserve the loan. Maybe I can't back it up with the collaterals, etc. And then I default on it. So NPAs is another problem in India when it comes to, so there's lack of funding. Third thing is, so millennials, you guys understand? You understand the term millennial? So millennials are generally, people who are born between 80s to let's just say 2000. And their work culture, their ideas about everything is very different from what people born before 80s was. And it's very difficult to, it's very, let's just say not difficult, different to work with them, to adjust to them. Michael just pointed out that the younger ones, they put on those bulbs and they got those new ideas. So of course they're full of ideas and vibrancy, but then to work, to drill down that work ethic in them is very difficult. So the generation that is, you also work with millennials?
Oh yes.
Yeah. There you go.
There's no discipline, so it's not work. They find their passion and go.
Yeah, essentially. So to drill a sense of work ethic in them, the one that we had, the one that we learned, it's very, very different and difficult. So different, sometimes it surprises you because of their new ideas. Most of the times, they want to come in at 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock in noon, and then work till 2 o'clock, and then 8 o'clock there's a client call next morning, they want to appear for it, but their ideas are good. And it's very erratic. So millennials are also kind of misguided when it comes to startups and doing business. So for them, the time gap between conception of an idea to its monetization is very less in their brains, which everybody sitting in this room would appreciate that it takes time, right? So millennials don't have that inherent quality of patience. So they screw things up in the middle. And then you have your angels, angel investors, everybody understands. You have your angels, you have your venture capitalists, you have your private equity investors. So angels are also a little misguided about funding. I'll give you an example from my life. So when I started around a year back, it's just been a year for me. I told you I was an investment banker. So I knew this angel investor. I went to him and I told him the idea. Okay, he's invested in around 20 companies. And so angel investor, not $100,000 is what their ticket size generally is. Okay, so I told him, and And he valued my company at a big amount already, somewhere around 2 crores. He valued the company. He said, okay, I'll take 10% in your company, I'll give you this. And I was just telling him the idea, and I in a very grandiloquent and bombastic way I put it, I'm going to change this, and I'm changing pedagogies, and this is my vision, and everything I put in front of him. And he valued my company, said I'll take a 10% stake, and by the time I was walking back home, my idea about the company and my vision actually changed. I just, because in the initial stage, the company morphs a lot. What you actually think you will do and what you end up doing, there's a huge gap, and every entrepreneur would know that. There's a J curve, right? So you start here and you morph, and then you find your way. So that morphing used to happen almost every day at that point of time. So what I'm trying to tell you is that the angel community, they're not technically equipped enough to know how and where to invest money. And they invest money because whatever, they have that kind of dry cash. They invest money and things go wrong. Millennials are already misguided about things. And then there's a huge bubble that gets created. The startup valuation bubbles. In the US, it's already happened with the IT boom. So IT bubble. So in India also, it's a startup bubble that's going to happen because of this entire mismatch. So these were like the few ideas that I wanted to sort of put across when it comes to doing business in India versus all the problems in the economy. But tell me about yourself. So any interesting incident, any interesting thing that you want to comment upon, that you want to share? Yes.
I'd like to say that angel investor.
Yeah.
I'd like to share that. I think that the angel investor being top of the mark in investing his 20,000 in your idea,
Yeah.
was he was looking to invest in you.
That's also there.
Whatever the idea ended up,
That's
because
also
really an angel investor is looking for the person who can cope with growing with the business and identify the opportunities. So he identified that you had the skills and expertise he wanted to get in the ground floor with. That's why he wanted to stitch you up.
I agree. So that's my case.
And then as far as India goes, and all the artisans and all of the small businesses that you have here, if they're, I suggest that they look at something like Kiva for funding for at grassroots artisan level, because there's women all around the world who will invest in a co-op or invest in an individual if they've got an idea. So Kiva is a great. Crowdfunding is another one. If you've got a really good idea and by putting it out there at very little expense, then you'll find if other people in the world think it's also a good idea. But the thing with millennials, or any age, mature age people starting businesses have the same problem. Everyone is actually not thinking through the whole life cycle of the business and creating something that you don't actually want to end up with. So it's actually having a deep breath and being prepared to put some type of plan or action plan together to create the vision of the business, and is that really what you want, and what investment does it need, and you have to take the emotion out of the idea. And unfortunately, with the fad of startups and the spin that comes with that, a lot of people are not realizing the 24/7 work behind the scenes, and that you're the last one to get paid. So it's a reality of being prepared to do pricing, costing, being prepared to understand who your market is, and being prepared to put some type of plan and thought process through, because a lot of millennials are still living with their parents and not paying expenses. And the reality is the profit of keeping your business going, if you are out there paying everything, is high risk.
Correct. So she mentioned target marketing and knowing your target and pricing it correctly. One very huge reason again why businesses, why ideas you think you can monetize and it doesn't work. You're not able to monetize, but you try monetizing. Why it doesn't work mostly is that you think it's needed, it's actually not, because you're probably, even though you're doing your survey, because generally what happens is, that's again a personal experience. I go to people, I go to 10 people, various segments, and I pitch my idea to them, and I ask them, do you like this? And since they're friends, or even friends of friends, or they don't really care, they will all say yes. You will find 1 out of 10 who will really critique it, in the way it should be done, because they probably don't care. So, that also falls flat on the face. Another reason is, of course, one would be that it's not needed. Another reason is that the ecosystem isn't ready. So there's this friend of mine, Venkat, who's sitting here. So we had this discussion a year back. I was struggling with an idea, and we had this discussion. We were in Chandigarh in North India. And I told him about the idea, and I said, I'm not sure if people are ready. So he said, there's an ecosystem, and you always mostly have to adhere to it. You can go a step ahead and take your chances with it, but not more than that. So it's the same thing. So for example, videos, video marketing, YouTube. If you had put a very interesting video, 5-minute video on, let's just say, 10 interesting facts in the world, that is your video. If you had put that video up on YouTube in 2008, and the same video you try putting up now, the same video would get at least 5 times more number of views, consequently 5 times more revenue than it would have garnered in 2008. So the ecosystem has to be ready. Now the internet, of course, is freer, and all of these things. So you have to see the parallel factors in whatever you're doing that has to be really conducive to whatever you're doing. Anybody else that who wants to share? Do you want to share any experience around working? Have you had experiences of working in India with Indian clients? There's generally a complaint that it's difficult. Yeah, I see people clapping there. So yeah, what was it about?
Oh, we had mutual experience of working with. He had an experience working with an Israeli, and I had an experience working with Indian.
How is it?
Well, we're still friends,
Oh, yeah, in dirty laundries, you're no right.
Looking to lose weight, so.
So don't say anything.
I'd like to make a comment.
Do you want this?
No, it's okay.
Yeah.
Is that even India, you can't just generalize working with India. You
Yeah.
can't generalize.
That's true. That's true for everything.
Like I worked in Mumbai for close to 20 years, and I've been in Delhi for the last 5 years. I haven't been able to do a day's work with any Delhiite. I'm sorry, I'm not demeaning them, but it's just a different work ethos, a different mindset, a different work ethos. Just the work culture is so different.
I kind of agree with her. Bombay versus Delhi, there's always another thing about India, there's always this. Yeah.
It's a huge difference. It's the way they look at work. It's the way they look at money.
Yes.
It's the way they look at economics. Everything is so different.
So it's again a thing that I say, in Mumbai, 2 plus 2 would be 4, maximum 3 or 5. In Delhi, 2 plus 2 could be anywhere between 1 and 10. It's very difficult, Delhiites, again, I'm generalizing, but yeah, it's kind of difficult. Yeah, you were saying something.
I have been in Delhi for 4 days, and I would have met 20 to 30-year-olds, the ones that make you want to rip your hair out, in New Zealand anyway. And the girlfriend I came here with, I said, we're coming back. I could do so much with these kids. I could have every single one of them making big money. They're hungry and they're excited. And as long as you know that they will work within their parameters, it doesn't matter what their hours are, the difference with the millennials here, and it's so exciting, the work ethic isn't so much work ethic as excitement and enthusiasm. And it's different because we're in this crazy box that we got in, and they lifted the lid of Pandora's box, and they're not going to work the way they were told to. They're going to use their brains. And that's the difference. And I'm excited to come back. So I'm really excited. And as you say, you can't stereotype, because a stereotype is simply
It's not even fair,
missing out the whole picture.
Absolutely.
You're looking at the one centre of a kaleidoscope.
And what you've just said about the education and families encourage their children to go to learn engineering or so the same is also in the developed country, even in Israel, yes? Yes, math and English is most important than literature or Bible lessons or...
But is the gap that huge outside as well? I mean, the gap is very huge. Literature is demeaned here. You're going to do literature honors, you're almost effeminate.
Even in Israel, it's a startup nation and the focus is...
Israel is a startup nation, yes.
And the focus is in math and all those... not in the other...
Israel and India might be slightly, I would say, not so appropriate example to state something I heard from an Israeli. Other than Israel, if there's any country where you have maximum Israelis, it's India. That's because Israel and India is similar.
They're so similar.
It's similar. So therefore, India and Israel will be probably just about the same.
Well,
of course, I'm generalizing here. And
She's different. She's saying just
that is perfect at the second glass. The first glass, you see very, very different.
Yes.
Then you see there's so many similarities, but then you start to discover the real differences.
I agree. Absolutely. The face of it, the perception of chaos.
Yes,
It's
and
very
family and tradition. There's a lot of similarities. But then, India is number one in power distance, for example. Israel is the least power distance in the world.
Absolutely.
India is the most power distance in the world.
Absolutely.
So it means that our relations to authority and to hierarchy are, zero.
In fact, just to repeat one statement he said when you go to Israel, it's about, if suppose Israel's population is X million or whatever, he says there are X million prime ministers driving the road.
I just have to add a comment because this is about monetizing ideas in a challenging economic climate and you're talking about entrepreneurs and startups and millennials. Is for people, because the first thing people do is think that they're starting an online business, online shop, selling their products. The most thing they need to be aware of is chargebacks, because 50% of sales end up being charged back. So new startups and entrepreneurs are not aware of how scammy people really are, of the way the process goes through to order products with a fake credit card, stolen credit card, false address.
I think most of us that we go through that cycle. Everybody who starts up in any space, even at a job, it's not just entrepreneurship. You learn the ropes. There are people in your work environment in an office as well. You need to know how to deal with. I think that's part of learning.
Yeah, so online shops has a very high risk of chargebacks, that you lose the product and you lose the money that you'll pay. You've got to give, the bank takes it back.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of security put in now to deal with that in the systems that they use. PayPal is one of them. They guarantee.
RBS has also been very
there's
active.
so much security in there. That's becoming a non-issue. It really is becoming a non-issue.
They're trying now,
Yeah.
Even fake news and all of that, it's not just this. There are all of these menaces that come along with internet or whatever. You're using the internet. I think it's being good.
Yeah, that's all being guaranteed now. So it's
I think it's been a very good discussion. Let's wrap it up. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Fantastic, very good interactive session. Now can we get everybody together for a nice picture?
The awkward moment.
Everybody come forward. Everybody.
So very lovely.
This is our careful.
I feel like a giant.
Oh yes.
Stand in front and make me feel thin.
I'm also going to hide.
You might have to come forward. From the light. Yeah, forward. Slightly forward.
Too bad. Okay, that's a good one.
It's not easy
Okay.
to sit like that.
Wait. Okay, smile, yeah? Smile.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
This is called Israeli innovation. She actually decided that every cameraman
Yes. Actually, I lost my card, but that's fine.
You lost a card?
Yes.
WhatsApp, this is the WhatsApp number as well. Great. Thanks.
So what is this? Yes, I lost my card in Nordmann. Yeah. It's a restaurant, and I just have to.
It's exciting how we are talking.
The energy she's talking about, the 20 to 30-year-old bracket energy.
Yes, it's freezing here.
Are you going to be up there too this Christmas night? Are you up there too? Come on.
Oh, well, the one we did this morning, there was very few, one of them. Some of them are full.
Well, some of them go over, right?
Yeah, and this one went, the one before it.
Yes. All Edith, so very good. Yes.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, my card fell. I have this, I just had it. A red down, you guys want to prove? Yeah. I came in with it, I thought. I think you should.
Okay, you ready? Should we start? Okay, we'll begin now.
This is hilarious, we have 3 people. It's great, good job they showed up. Oh, she won, yeah.
You ready?
Do you want to let her, you want to just let her know that she's going to come back?
Yeah, I'm just so if you combine them anytime after 8:30.
Okay.
Yeah, so we will have. But if you bring your laptop in, that's good enough. Okay. We just connect it straight away.
So, yeah. This gets really stupid.
Oh, you want to
Yeah,
start
just
that
black
off?
it out. Yeah.
Just close it, just close it.
Does it work like that? No.
Yes.
Yeah, there you go. Good.
Okay, good. Great.
But there's probably
That's
one
fine.
with your picture in there. Yeah, they were in all the computers.
Oh, that's, okay, maybe it's supposed to go to the next one. It's supposed to
No,
go to the next
but
slide.
we can see you.
Brenda, you're from Canada as well.
Yes.
But others may not know.
What's that?
I said, but others may not know.
That's right.
So, because it all moves by time, I saw our.
Good evening, everybody. We now have our next session on bridging the gap between communications and connections. And our speakers tonight are Brenda from Canada, Kimberly from Canada as well, and Edith from Holland. And I invite all of them. I think they decided to do an interactive, collective session. So I guess that would be very interesting. All over to you.
Excellent.
Thank you very much. Well, I'm going to start by saying, given that we're a very small group here this evening, we are going to sit as we speak. We don't have to stand. And I'm going to start by asking, why did you come to this session? Why did you look at the title and decide to come into this session? So we have some people in the back who can give us a response. Anything?
I came not just because I know you, but because communication and connection is important.
Communications and connections is important. Okay, very good. Anybody else?
Communication is a route to connections.
Communication is a route to connections. Okay. Well, let me first of all start by saying we are not here to teach, to tell, or to sell. Not at all. We are here to share stories. That's what we were guided on, and that's what we're here to do. So we're really not here, to use your word, to give a sermon. We're here to share stories. And it's interesting. I'm going to ask a question of the audience. Do you think that communicating automatically means connecting? Ah, very good. Very good. Communicating. You? Not necessarily. So, but what about connecting? Does connecting automatically mean communicating? If you're connecting with somebody, are you automatically communicating?
Yeah.
Yes, you are.
Yes.
Exactly. Isn't it interesting? It's not a two-way street. Communicating doesn't automatically mean connecting, but connecting does mean communicating. As we think about communicating in general, we often think about output, what it is that we're saying to people. But it's not just about what we're saying. It's about our presence, our essence, who we are being, how we're showing up. And I can speak for myself and my partner, Kim. We have been on a journey of communicating and connecting, in particular, in our community in Nova Scotia, Canada, whereby we are bringing people together from our communicating, but we are connecting with them at the level that they are looking for from us. I'm going to pass the mic to Kim and allow her to share her story in terms of her path of this whole communicating and connecting journey through the brand new social enterprise nonprofit organization that was founded less than a year ago now. And she will be able to share whatever story she would like to share with you. And she also has some other nuggets of wisdom that she has learned on her path. And again, this is what it's all about, sharing and the stories. So I'm going to pass this over and then we will move on and we'll close out with some questions. So please think about some things that you might want to talk about amongst all of us. It's not just about us. We're here to share, strictly. Thank you, Brenda. Brenda and I have a very interesting relationship. We're actually very funny together. She always puts me on the spot. So in my mind, I want to speak about this. But then Brenda, it's like she knows I need to be challenged. So now she wants me to talk about the social boutique. And I'm like, there she goes again. And she's like the mother I never had. Thank you. So she communicates with me, but not verbally. So the one question that was asked to me over and over again at this conference, they asked me all the time is, what do you do, Kim? What do you do? And I look at them and I answer, nothing. Because I find personally it's very difficult to explain what I do. Because I completely love, enjoy, and it's my passion. So I'm going to try to articulate that today. I am a human behavior specialist, a consultant. I interpret people's behaviors. So I read who they are on the spot. When they're in front of me, I watch their behaviors, I listen. I listen to what they're telling me, I listen to what they're not telling me, and I create a space for them to be themselves. And through that, I've learned also to calm myself down, and as I said, just to create space for them. So they're comfortable. And when they're comfortable, they're able to be, again, completely themselves. So I brought that. Brenda had an idea for the social boutique. And I'll tell you who I am. I am a task-oriented person. I love goals, I love to be busy, and I need to see results. So Brenda had this idea of creating the social boutique. And what the social boutique is a place where we have clothes that we sell for women. The clothes are all either donated, well, they're all donated, but some are brand new from different stores in our area, or from women who have outgrew, or have just donate what they don't want, okay? But they're still in very good condition. And all the money, it's 100% volunteer run, and 100% of the proceeds go towards Dress for Success Halifax, which is an organization that assists women to get back into the workforce. I'll let Brenda talk about that. But my job, through the human behavior side, was to create, to organize, and to get the organizational part of it. So I had to take all my strengths, understanding, reading people, the management part, work to accept, to look for volunteers, to bring them on board, to keep them motivated, and also just to keep them, so we could, yeah, pardon me? To communicate and connect. And that, it turned into be a very strong passion of mine. It is a love. This year completely changed my life. I always thought that I fully understood people, but working with the volunteers and seeing exactly who they are, taking a step back and letting them be who they were meant to be, allowed me to connect with them at a different level. I'm going to pass the mic on, and I just want to share that when we get to the end of our session, I am going to share with you one little tip that hopefully will take you from communicating to connecting. That's been my own personal experience, so I'll share that with you in the end, but for now I'm going to pass it along to our next speaker.
Thank you very much.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm very honored to be here today, and I first would like to share a quote with you. A very special man, Nelson Mandela, once said, if you speak to a man in a language he understands, that goes to his head. If you speak to him in his language, that goes to his heart. Let me take you all on a journey. We are traveling to the land of Shinar. The world has just recovered from having been completely flooded, and mankind has settled in the land of Shinar. Everyone speaks the same language. Men and women have decided to build a city together, and as the masterpiece of the city, they are planning to build a huge tower going up into the sky and reaching heaven. I think you're sensing where I'm going. So, they were building and the tower became taller and taller. And God came down and he looked at the city and the tower. And he realized that as long as the people were united by one language and as one people, nothing could stop them from achieving what they were seeking. And this angered God. So, whilst they were building the tower and it grew taller and taller up into the sky, God confounded their speech. Now, our formerly united builders of the tall tower were speaking different languages, and they could no longer understand each other. So, they got angry, they got frustrated. They realized that their former ability to communicate and to cooperate was gone because they could no longer understand each other. They were scattered over the face of the earth, and the tower was never finished. The city where the tower was built was called Babel, which means confusion. Let's get back to today. When we read the newspaper, when we check the news, it seems that the world has never been as confused as it is today. So, we all speak one language. We should be able to understand each other. We all speak English. So how come that we are not able to build this tower peacefully today? Let me take you back a little while, about 150 years back in Europe. We spoke all different languages then. In Switzerland, where I originally come from, they speak French, Swiss German, Italian, and another language in the mountains, which is called Rätoromaans. I'm not going to tell you how that sounds. In the other countries, they speak other different languages. So there was no common language like English. How did they, or did they at all communicate with each other? Did they do business together? But I remind you, it's about 150 years ago. Yes, they did. It wasn't as easy as it is today, of course, but they did interact. But how did it work if they couldn't understand each other? Well, let's picture this. Louis from Switzerland wants to do business with Ivan from Russia. So, as you imagine, Louis speaks German, well, probably also French, and Ivan speaks only Russian. In order to do business, like you said before, you have to connect. So how do you do that? You have to negotiate. In order to do that, it's easy if you speak the same language. So if you don't, what do? Well, we have Louis and we have Ivan. And there comes Olga. Olga is an interpreter. And Olga speaks Russian, like Ivan. And she speaks Swiss German, like our Louis from Switzerland. And she also understands the Swiss culture as well as the Russian culture. So Louis is very excited, and he wants Olga to tell what special item he has to offer to Ivan. He is telling her that he has this very special thing, a wristwatch. Ivan waits patiently until Olga has translated what Louis just had said to Olga. Because of course, he doesn't understand what Louis just said. So when he hears that, he says to Olga, what is a wristwatch? She puts that question back to Louis, and Louis explains this is something very special, and I want to remind you we are talking about a bit more than 150 years ago. This is a very special item that so far only the Queen of Naples has commissioned. So they continue communicating by way of Olga. They wait patiently, they ask questions, Louis does and Ivan does, and Olga translated from one to the other, because both of them realize that they come from different cultural backgrounds and they do speak different languages. So only by way of Olga they can find out what the other one really means. At the time when they feel confident that they have really understood what one has to offer and what the other one wants to buy, Ivan commissions his very first special wristwatch to be handmade by Louis Breguet. So, but how do we do business today, in 2017? How do we do cross-border business transactions? It sounded quite complicated what Louis and Ivan did. They couldn't communicate directly with each other. But with us, it's much easier, because nowadays we speak English, right? Well, let me tell you, it's not that easy, and we don't all speak English. We think that we are speaking the same language, but we are using the same language, and that's something entirely different. Because let's face it, except for the English-speaking countries, most of the world, when they communicate in cross-border business transactions, they use English as a foreign language. So what happens is the following. They think of a business idea in their head, in their own mother tongue, then they translate it in their head into the English they know, and that's the way they talk to each other. But there is no more Olga to check whether this is really what they mean. And the thing is that when you hear something you don't really understand, you don't dare asking the other party, what do you mean by that? And why is that? Because we don't want our business partner to think that we're stupid. And we don't use Olga anymore. But quite honestly, we have to be aware that ever since the Tower of Babel, we have no common language anymore. And if we are not aware of that, there will be lots of misunderstanding. And I can tell you many cases in which on the highest level people have just miscommunicated and missed out on very, very important business transactions because they misinterpreted a term in the English language, and that's really horrible. Even in Supreme Courts in foreign languages, the high Supreme Court judges don't dare to ask an interpreter how they should interpret an English business term. It's unbelievable, but it's really true. So, what do we learn from that? We should take our time when we communicate in cross-border business transactions. We should be really very much aware that there is no common language of mankind anymore. So do ask those questions. Nobody will think that you're stupid. On the contrary, be aware that if you don't, there might be misunderstanding. You might miss out on an important part of the deal. That would really be a pity. And there is one more thing, because if you do so, if you ask, if you take the time, at first it might seem that it slows down the process, but it speeds up the understanding. And on top of that, it will also help you to not only speak to the head, but also to the heart.
Excellent. Thank you very much. So I want to make a comment with regard to Kim. She was telling you about the fact that she's a human behaviorist and consultant. So one of the things that has served her exceedingly well is, yes, she needs to communicate the message to the volunteers or anybody who, even the shoppers who come into the boutique. she communicates with them, but because of her experience, she has the ability to connect with them. Now, I'm not sure whether Kim wants to share with you maybe a little exercise. I know she has all kinds, and we can go down that path, or we can have some questions before we move on. And Kim, I'm going to ask you, what would you like to do? Would you like to do a little exercise? Yes, look at this. Let's hear it for Kim. There you go. She knows that I need challenges. It's not really an exercise. It's just kind of a little bit of a description of how to, what to look for when you're meeting people, and how to choose my words wisely here. What to look for in order to communicate to them, to communicate effectively at their level. Okay, what language to use. So the one thing that I always do, I follow a certain model, which I've been following for a long time. It's called the DIS model of human behavior. And one of the things that we look at, we look, okay, when a person comes into the room, are they outgoing or reserved, right? You know, when I walk into a room, when I'm in my element, oh, you know that I've arrived. I'm like, hey everybody, I'm here, right away. So I'm all outgoing, okay? There are other people who just want to sit in the back. Any of you here who just want to sit in the back? Exactly, right? So when I see that, I interview about 5 or 6 people daily right now. I'm in charge, one of the things, along with the social boutique, I'm just overseeing a merge of two financial companies. So I'm interviewing a lot of different accountants and accounting technicians. So I want them to come in. It's very important because we are looking for certain personality types to fit the role, and we want to make sure that we know the person in front of us, that we can put them in the best situation possible. I call it a strength-based approach, right? You don't want to put somebody who doesn't like to public speak in a role that they have to public speak. Lose, lose, lose. But we want to put them in a win-win-win situation. So we look at that, outgoing or reserved. And then on the other side, it's kind of the left brain, right brain. Are they task-oriented or are they people-oriented? So when you look at an accountant, if you're looking for a specific skill, you want them to be task-oriented. But coming back to the social boutique, when we're looking for people, what do you think we're looking for? Are we looking for outgoing? Are we looking for reserved? Are we looking for task-oriented? Or are we looking for relationship people? What would you think I'd be looking for? Outgoing and people. Exactly. However, because of the type of business that we are involved with, where we're sorting, and I'm not exaggerating, thousands of pieces of clothing weekly. Thousands of pieces of clothing weekly. So for myself, who's outgoing, and all these clothings, all they come in, you lose me. You completely lose me. So I am looking for somebody at that time who is reserved and task-oriented. So when she came to, talk about the exercise, I usually ask people, how many people, who's here is who's outgoing? Raise your hand. Who's outgoing? Exactly. And who's reserved? Everybody else, probably. Exactly. Very smart. Who here is task-oriented? And what that means, who loves to get up in the morning and you write your list? That list is with you every single part of the day. And you follow that list and you check off that list. Oh, I got up in the morning, check. Oh, brush my teeth, check. Right? So that would be either reserve, outgoing. So it's really interesting. Those are the things, for me, knowing that about somebody, you're task and people, correct? So you're reserved and task. So if I say to you, I value your opinion because I know you did the research already, and you're right. How does that make you feel?
Good.
Exactly. That's the language she wants. In my world, she's a high C, and she loves excellence. She does her research, and when she speaks, she speaks the truth because she's done the research and she knows everything on the topic. So, for you're a travel consultant?
Tour operator.
A tour operator? If she tells me, if I say to her, give me 3 things of what you think I should see where you're at, I would actually listen, because those are the best, because you've already done the research. So, coming back to the social boutique, we have found, I call it team works, not teamwork. Team works. We have found the right people for all the right positions. And we are truly, we call it Team TSB. We should have had our t-shirts. But we have come together as a team. And because of the strengths that I come with, I can finally say that the strengths, I've embraced them. I speak to everybody at their level, at their language. Just like Brenda does for me. I'm task-oriented, I need to see results, and I need to be challenged. And what does she do? She puts me on the spot all the time. All the time. So thank you, Brenda. Thank you for reading me. You're very welcome. Okay, did you want to add anything, or are you ready to open for some questions?
Yeah, sure.
So do we have some questions from the audience? Anybody? Yes, Danielle.
So how would you recommend someone who is not as people-oriented to get better at connecting with people? Because I'm not as people-oriented.
Okay, so let me ask the people in the room, how many of you here have networked? How many of you go networking? Okay, so everybody. And if anybody didn't raise their hand, then you're not really telling the truth, because we all network, whether you go into your bank or whether you're going to a chamber event or a function or something like this. Everybody who is here, you're networking at some point in time. How many of you have gone to a networking event where somebody comes up to you with all kinds of business cards and they want to tell you about what it is that they do and they just want to give it to you? Have you ever experienced that? Hands? And how did that make you feel? When they I'm seeing this, thumbs down. Okay, exactly. The reason that you feel like that is because they're communicating their message to you, but they are not connecting with you. So you asked me the question, how do you connect? Here's my tip. I'm going to share with you a little person that goes with me everywhere I go. When I go, whether it's networking, professionally, informally, formally, whatever the case may be. My friend is Ira. I take her everywhere I go. Ira is a way of being. It's a way of showing up. So when I go into a room, when I have Ira with me, which is always, I follow her lead. And the first letter, of course, in Ira is I. It's I-R-A, so I. And this is what I do. No matter who I'm speaking with, I am in a state of being interested. Not interesting, although it's nice if you can be that, great, but much more important to be interested than interesting. Because it is about the other person that you're speaking with, so you want to be interested. The second way of being is R, and I'm going to ask somebody to tell me what they think the letter R might stand for in IRA. So again, it's a way of being. You're at a networking event, you have 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever the case may be, to be with the person. What do you think the R might stand for? Anybody?
Respectful.
Ah, bingo, look at you, and she did not know this. This was not planned. Very good. It's exactly right. Respectful, and the way you want to think about that is that you have only a few minutes. You don't want to monopolize their time. They want to talk to other people. If you find and you make a connection, because that's what it's all about, if you make a connection with those people, then take their name, take their card, and say, I'd love to follow up and have a coffee later. So now you've been interested, you're respectful of the time, and the final piece of IRA is A, and who's going to tell me what the A stands for, which is, again, another way of being.
Attentive.
Attentive is a good word. It's not the word I'm looking for, but it is good. And I'm going to demonstrate the opposite. And I'm sure somebody will be able to tell me what it is once I do that. Kim, if you can hold this, please.
Accepting?
So I'm at a function, and I'm like this. This is my body language.
Yeah, you're closed.
I'm closed, which means that I'm not being this, which is open. Of course, you're not walking around with your arms open, but you have an open way of being, which is approachable. You want to be approachable, no matter where you are in the room, because people are watching you from all around. You're connecting, whether you know it or not, by the communication that you're sending and the signals. So when you're open, people want to come and speak to you. So imagine, Danielle, if you're interested, you're respectful, and you're approachable, if you have her in your pocket with you everywhere you go, you're going to make a fantastic impression. People are going to want to spend time with you, and it will be easier and easier and easier. And it's amazing. It sounds like a silly little thing, but when you go into a room, and those are the three things that are in your back pocket, that's just the way of being. It's extraordinary, the positive results that come from that. Great question. Anybody else? Did you want to add anything? Yes? Okay, I'm going to pass it to Kim.
Because I'm very focused and goal-oriented and driven, I've always, in the old me, forgot about what the word, actually I shouldn't say that. Someone told me, Kim, turn that me upside down and let's turn it into a we. I wonder who that would be, right? Because I did everything myself. But after listening to that, I thought, oh, what is she going on about? I then started opening up, again, using my skills. The one thing that I had to learn was to be open and to work with other people. So what I did is that I watched what I wanted to be, what I needed to work on, or if there was a person, I'm like, wow, that person's really good at teamwork, or being open and speaking to different people in a certain manner, though that's the one that I would model. So that worked for me. Just observing.
And I love the fact that you asked the question to move forward. Yes, Miss Sunshine. I see. I'm going to call you Miss Sunshine.
My name is Edith.
Yes. Miss Edith.
Yes.
Miss Edith.
So I would say, diagnosing myself from what you said, that I have communication problem with my staff.
You have a communication problem with your staff?
Yes, because I feel either we are not at the same wavelength, as either I'm talking above their level of understanding.
Okay.
Resulting in, after giving instructions, either they do the opposite. So, like I'm just listening to you to see whether I can have a clue how to address that problem, because it's a big challenge for me, especially working with people who are not, will I say, not very educated.
So literacy is an issue?
It's an issue, and the level of understanding and exposure is also an issue.
Okay.
Because exposure, you have, will I say, a mindset, or you're coming from somewhere they have not been. And maybe speaking your language is far above them. I have a staff that is really, she looks very good, hardworking, but I'm not able to reach her. I sit down and explain and explain and explain. I finally discovered either what I'm communicating is not quite clear to her. So I first of all blame myself.
Okay.
For not maybe studying them to know where they are coming from.
Okay.
To communicate to somebody like you coming to us, Nigeria, I take you to my village, you might not be able to communicate.
Right.
Because what you've seen, they have not seen. Your level of language, they cannot even appreciate. So what I'm saying, that issue in communication, you must study and know something about their background.
Okay, so that makes a really good point. In order to be understood, in order for you to be understood, it's important that you understand, right? In order to be understood, you have to understand. So in your case, if it's a matter of literacy and it's a language barrier, that's a very different thing than them not getting the message. If they understand the language, then it falls back on, as you said, on your shoulders in terms of you investigating and asking more questions and finding out. It really is up to you because you're the one that's trying to communicate the message to them, right? So you want to dig further and find out where is the barrier and then go from there. But I saw a hand go here who I think she wants to speak to it, so please go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you. You took the words right out of my mouth. In The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Steve Covey, the late Dr. Steve Covey, the 5th habit is seek first to understand, then be understood. I'm also a Toastmaster, and one of the attributes that I learned in being a good leader, not only an effective communicator, but a good leader as well, because you can be a good communicator and not a good leader, or you could be a good leader and not an effective communicator. So you need a combination of the two. My point is, one of the attributes that I learned in Toastmasters is whenever you are faced with a situation where you have to communicate with any audience in the sense that that could be your staff, that to a certain extent is your audience. I'm a professional speaker. I speak before different people. So I need to understand first, have an appreciation of my audience for me to be an effective communicator. So you find that even in this kind of fora, probably a lot of us panel speakers did not really have an opportunity, or we did not take time to try and appreciate the caliber of people who would be in this forum. Except maybe the general information like I had, over 2,000 women coming from 100 countries. That's probably as much as we all had in terms of information. But that is just the tip of the iceberg. For us to be effective as communicators, we would have needed to understand and appreciate even just a sample of our audience. So my point to you is, you need to try and understand the people that you're dealing with, if it's their backgrounds, their education, from their perspective, before you try and get them to understand your perspective. It makes it easier. You're trying to bridge the gap between where you're at and where they're at, and you're trying to find a common ground. So you find that sometimes we frustrate ourselves because we're trying to get our message across. But if you look at the communication cycle, it says it's one thing having a message, but it's another thing your recipient understanding what you're trying to communicate. So you have a communication barrier. So you have noise in between what you're trying to communicate and them understanding it. So my point really is, try and understand them before you try and get them to understand what you expect them to do. I think it will make it easier. I hope that helps. But I found that it makes it easier for me, even when I'm asked to speak to people. I try and just have an appreciation of who's going to be there. Are they well educated? Can they communicate maybe in English? Or maybe sometimes you have to speak in the vernacular for them to understand. And sometimes you need to go the extra mile, and you need to probably just invest in them, train them to be what you want them to be.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent, thank you very much. And just to sum up what she just said, it's exactly to know your audience. That really is key. Know your audience, whether it's staff or somebody that you're speaking to professionally, really, really important. Did you want to ask a question?
In case I'm required, I'm here to help you.
Okay. So
please continue.
Yeah. So I'm just going to say, anywhere. My sunshine is behind our cameraman, so I can see the sun, but I can't see her face. Any other questions? Anything that anybody else wants to talk about in terms of what we've discussed? Thank you very much for your comments, by the way. Spot on. Excellent. Anybody? Did you want to finish with anything?
Sometimes.
Yes.
Sometimes also, to your point, you're so, I
Just
do
a second,
a fair,
I'm moving.
oh, I also do a fair amount of training in the Caribbean and in Central America, and exactly that happens. I'm speaking to an audience whose first language is not mine. So it's so important that empathy, or whatever it is you have with an audience, so that you're speaking more slowly, you're trying to really get in their space, so that after a while, some of them really think that I speak their language, and I don't. And I've had people say that. And I don't know what it is that makes that happen, but I think it is exactly what you said. It's understanding the audience and putting yourself to their level. And that's probably not always easy to do. And I didn't learn it from learned it through the University of Hard Knocks, but it's definitely something that I think is really important to connect with, whether it's a whole audience or just a group or board members that you're trying to negotiate with or convey a message to.
One more.
Sure.
I don't know how far the value system.
You've been running.
The value system of an individual. I don't know that makes sense. I know English is my second language, so pardon me. I mean the value of a person. They may differ, so when you communicate to them, you are speaking to them from, they have an understanding, a particular understanding. You know, where I come from, with people from different cultures, and we have different cultural values, so sometimes it affects our communication. If I speak to somebody in the north of Nigeria, what I say to him, he may not understand, but if I say the same thing from somebody from the east, he will understand. So I think culture, is an issue in communication. We need to understand the culture of the people and the way they understand things to be able to communicate effectively. That's a little contribution.
Okay.
I fully understand. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Yes, I'm going to pass this on, and I just want to follow up on Beth's comment. In fact, that's exactly what she was just talking about, is that she may not have the experiences with the audience that she's there speaking to, but because she has the experience with the hard knocks of life and she's spoken with many, many people, she appears to be relating because she's going, so this, when she used the phrase getting to their level, she really is saying connecting. That's what she's doing. She's connecting. One way or the other, she's connecting, and they feel they can resonate with her, and they think that she's part of them. So that is really, I think, the biggest challenge for all of us, no matter what our communication style is to be always looking to connect. What is the best way we can do that? And I know you want to say something as well.
Yes, thank you very much. Yeah, I would like to say something to Edith. From one Edith to another. I fully agree that cultural differences, and that was a topic I was talking about at an earlier meeting, are enormous, can be an enormous problem in communication. And the awareness, I mean, you have already made quite a big step in being aware of the facts that the cultural differences will have part of the problem, or are part of the problem of communication, because many people do not realize that, and especially because we do not sense the language barrier anymore. But there is, with language barrier or not, there is still the big difference in cultural understanding, and that is something we have to be fully aware of. And I can give you just let's say on the same level, I give you an example out of business life, where just to give you an idea of cultural differences in looking at things from a different angle. And it's a story that really happened. We like stories. You started off with stories. It really happened. So an American negotiator met with an English negotiator, and it was a really high-level negotiation about a business transaction. and they had different key points they wanted to discuss. And then the American negotiator said, well, let's table that motion. So the English negotiator said, okay, and he started to talk about it. The American negotiator stood up and left, and the English negotiator had absolutely no idea what happened. So the whole negotiation didn't get through, the deal was not closed. What happened is the following. In America, I don't have to tell you that, same in Canada, if you are tabling a motion, this means we're not going to talk about that. In England, on the contrary, if you are tabling a motion, this means we are talking about it. And instead of asking, well, do you mean that we should or we shouldn't talk about it, nothing would have happened. You would have said, of course we shouldn't, I just told you. So then the Englishman would have understood that there is a misunderstanding from their cultural backgrounds, using exactly the same language, in understanding of the same thing, in the same words. Can you imagine if you are not only speaking on the same level, but on different levels? This miscommunication is even much bigger. So therefore, it is very, very important nowadays that we really are aware of this, and that we take good notion of these differences, and that we start checking, fact-checking, okay, I would like you to do this, that. Do you know what it means? And he said, yes, because nobody ever says no. Well, most of the people don't say no. If you ask them, do you understand? So, and then let them repeat in their own words what they think you want them to do. And you will find out soon enough if they have understood or not. It seems a bit tiring at the beginning, but there is a big win out of that. If you start communicating in a way in which you both show that you're genuinely interested in getting on the same level of communication and in getting things done.
Sorry.
Thank you. I was just going to also say, we must also try and think win-win in a situation. So it's a case of, I would like to win, and I want you to win. And as soon as somebody has that sense that we will both benefit out of whatever it is, it doesn't matter how big or small it is, you find that that bridges the gap, and you find that it makes it easier to communicate. I've also found that trying to keep things as simple as possible makes a huge difference. Most of the time, because we're coming from different backgrounds, some people are technical, some people are not, some people are scientific and some people are not. Keep things as simple as possible. Don't assume that everybody has got a technical mind. Don't assume that everybody is as educated as you are. When you keep it as simple as possible, it just makes it different. It just makes it easier. Even in Toastmasters, we talk about communicating in such a manner that even a 5-year-old will understand. It might seem like it's extreme, trying to talk to a 5-year-old and getting them to understand, but it's just basically saying, keep it simple. If a child can understand, the likelihood is very high that anybody else will understand.
Absolutely excellent. And that's exactly what I was going to say, is that to your comment with regard to asking the question, just seeking clarity, and even better than saying, sometimes I think we would all agree that if we've been in a situation where you've said, do you understand? Even if they don't, what do they say?
Yes, I do.
Yes, I do.
They're afraid.
So rather than put them on the spot or even take the chance that you're making somebody uncomfortable, because it's all about making them feel comfortable, but also keeping it simple and making sure that they understand, maybe saying it and asking, and not even for them to repeat it, but just saying, so this is what I would like you to do, and go through it step by step, keeping it at the 5-year-old level. And then I think that it just increases, of course, always your chances and outcome for a positive result. And if there is a stumbling block at that point, then you can address it specifically, because it most likely isn't the whole thing, there's probably a portion of it. And to your comment, with regard to the win-win, I want to share that What we have, a philosophy at the Social Boutique, and in fact in our lives, because we talk about the women that we serve in the community, we provide clothing for them for their interviews, and we tell everybody who comes into our shop that we are all about a win-win-win. It's not just a win-win, it's a win-win-win. It's a triple win, because it's a win for us, it's a win for you, the shopper, and it's a win for the women that we serve. And so we can start to think in those triads, everything that we're doing, the win-win-win, whether we're communicating, connecting, all of those things, I think that we'll do really well. And remember, the next time you go to a networking event, Danielle, who will be in your back pocket? Ira, yes, okay. Kim, did you have anything else you wanted to say? Okay, I'm going to pass it off to you.
That's been a brilliant session, and I'm sure we all have thoroughly enjoyed. Thank you so much for being here with us. And I wish we could have roped in a lot more people to really hear. I mean, there's so much of enthusiasm, so much of zest and passion when you are talking. It's amazing. Thank you so much, and have a wonderful evening.
And thank you to the group, really.
Yes.
Thanks very
We need a picture.
Sure. Great.
Great. Did you enjoy this?
Yes.
It was a good session.
Yes.
Okay, tomorrow morning you're going to wear
Nigeria. Excellent. Excellent.
Okay, or one of you.
Yes.
I have you on
Thank
the
you.
list.
Thank you.
Oh, will you?
Thank you very much. Thank you. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, that's great. Lovely.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your comments. It was great.
Thank you.
So
Yeah.
much. What Toastmaster club are you with?
You say you're from
Zimbabwe.
Zimbabwe?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I am in Canada.
Oh, really?
Oh, yes.
Fantastic.
Yes.
Fantastic.
My daughter is in Calgary, and I was in Calgary.
Oh, in Calgary. That's the West Coast. Yes. Thank you so much. And this is actually my daughter here taking notes. And so every time you said Toastmasters, her head popped up every time.
Really
Because they
fantastic.
live and breathe this Toastmaster organization.
It's an amazing program.
It's incredible.
Yes.
Stage time.
Yes.
Please join in for a picture.
Oh, sure.
Please, आप कोई बुला रहे थे.
The Edith together.
Y'all invited to my brother's son guest room tomorrow.
Okay, no, he can take it.
And you need to give him a picture.
Please
take this.
Come into the box.
Okay.
Good. I'm coming.
Wait.
Wait.
Hold the smile.
Okay.
Not going
Start.
anywhere.
Smile, yeah?
And yeah, just take one with the other. That's great. Password. Yes, please. Excellent. Thank you very much. Thank you. Tell me.
Yeah, it's really a pleasure meeting you. Yes. Edith Nordmann. No. I will give you a card. She said she will not have a card, but yeah. I feel a bit hesitant now. This one? Yes, wait a minute. Wait a minute.
Here we are.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. So you see 2:15 tomorrow.
At 8:30 tomorrow morning. The two will be there. The two of you? Are you both? Okay.
What is it called?
We'll be there. We'll be there.
You never know, because we've been to quite a few, and there's been girls
Oh, yes, there was supposed to be a fourth one here with us.
Edith,
In fact,
what is
there
it
was
called?
another one before.
Which is it?
There's five.
Oh.
Not that big, 'cause it was three
Which one
panels.
is it?
And
It's supposed
then
to
it
be-
was
it's
four,
supposed to
so
be
at the
today.
end, the
Oh.
chairs
Just
had nothing
move
to do with it,
forward.
it just so
No.
happened
About
that it was
6
set
p.m.
up.
Move
She
forward
was.
to 2:15.
So where will it be?
Here.
The very one.
That's why you
came So this is 3.
I got to check. I got to check
Thank
the
you.
settlement.
So it's 3. Room 3, is it?
Yeah.
Okay, so are they taking this one out?
Yes.
That's what I
Okay.
say, as long as I learn one thing in a day.
Come, Ira.
I
Come on, exactly. She's so pretty.
She was taking notes.
She's doodling. Yes, I know. That's great. That's great. It's very, very nice to meet you. Yeah. Thank you so much.
So how far have you gone in your Toastmasters program?
Yeah, this is really detailed.
By the looks, the
Same here. Yeah. Every time a new member came